Come, wayward souls, and wander through the darkness. There is a light for the lost and the meek. Sorrow and fear are easily forgotten when you submit to the soil of the earth. Tiny seed, you are called to the tree.
People who go out and potter in their garden, even if it only is a little square out the back, are tampering with forces they do not understand. Surely that much is certain. Surely that much is clear. Now, of course, they will say, oh, but I've only got a little space, 20 foot by 20. It's not big enough to swing a cat. Agreed. But when you consider the scale of the gardening, the scale of the suburban gardening that goes on right across Britain, you're talking about a major cosmetic change to the landscape of this nation. And when you consider that the Germans and the Swiss are even more manic about it than we are, okay, you've got practically the whole of an entire continent of Europe, which bears no resemblance whatsoever to the way nature intended. Now, nature intended it to be one way for a set of very particular and very important reasons. There are no broad-leaved plants left in Europe. They are weeds. They are destroyed. There are few broad-leaved trees left in Europe. People don't want them in their garden because it's a pain come autumn to get rid of all the leaves, and they don't blossom, do they? So they put ornamental trees in their gardens and flowers in the gardens, where before there were broad-leaved plants and broad-leaved trees. We need broad-leaved trees. Once it was possible to travel from the southernmost tip of Britain to the northernmost tip of Britain and never leave forested land. Now, somebody intended the world to look like that, and the world no longer looks like that. And a serious question has to be given serious thought and a serious answer. And that serious question is this. Who do gardeners think they are? Who do they think they are? Tampering with Mother Nature in such a self-righteous and complete way. Free call 0500 10 53 89. They love the idea that they are at one with nature when they're out there in the garden listening to the, well, what's left of the songbirds and the bees buzzing. But again, they're tampering with nature. They are changing the diversity of what grows and narrowing it, and consequently changing the diversity of what lives and narrowing it. There are fewer butterflies than there were when you were a child. You know that's true. There are fewer birds than there were when you were a child. You know that's true. The most frequently seen bird in Britain now is the seagull, and that can't be right. And this is all because people are tinkering with nature. Albeit with the best of possible intentions. They just want to make their garden a nice little patch so that when people come round, they'll say, oh, this is nice, you've been busy. But there are so many better things to busy yourself with. Free call 0500 10 53 89. We need weeds to breathe. We need weeds for butterflies to live on. And we need time with ourselves and with our thoughts and our immortal souls so that we too can flourish and grow. Otherwise, instead of being the broad-leaved plants of the forest who breathe and are strong, we as people end up as pretty little ornamental flowers of no good to anyone, although we smell quite sweet, but just so easy to snap off at the stem. Free call 0500 10 53 89. And what have they got against insects? Practically every insect that lives in the garden is viewed by the gardener as a pest. Of course, they'll rant and rave against the horrors of fox hunting, or the terrible things that the Japanese do to the whales. They've all got car stickers on their back. You go around the garden centre and you look, and on the back it's got, save the whales, save the fox. And yet what have they got in that cardboard box that they've just bought from the garden centre in the back of the car? Tins of poison and stuff to put down to kill animals, which are pests. Now let's have this one out. And we'll talk about yoga and religion as well. Philip calls from London. You're on talk. You can try. You're on Talk Radio, Philip. Good afternoon.
Hello, Tommy.
Hello, Philip.
Now, I'm talking about corporate agriculture.
Are you?
That's, gardening is one side. It's like, private motoring against, heavy-duty transport. Because if it's not organic, that's gonna danger and, damage the environment. And, also the clearance of the hedgerows. Now, since the Enclosures Act hundreds of years ago, they've been setting up hedgerows which has preserved wildlife from the forests that used to be, and now the hedgerows is gone. They got these big combine harvesters come from America, like the Midwest Dust Bowl they had, and that has got as much to do with loss of wildlife on all the creatures that have disappeared. Because I used to do hedging.
Well, that may well be true, Philip, and it may well be valid in its own context. But if you're going to attach your concerns about agriculture to this program, which is about suburban gardening, you're going to have to push out the following boat, which is that farmers are nothing more than
giant gardeners,
jobbing gardeners on a grand scale. You are saying that?
Well, that's right, and also we don't want that non-organic stuff that the garden centres are putting out, and also the corporate agriculture is putting out. Can I make a point about the religion as well?
Well, I suppose so.
Well, listen, it's all tied in with the Garden of Eden, isn't it? They don't want knowledge. They don't want knowledge out, so they sort of tend to diminish anything that people want to learn about. And that is because the state of grace goes right back to the state of grace in Genesis, doesn't it?
Some fascinating views. A real kaleidoscope of opinion. We welcome now Louise, who calls from Glasgow. You're on Talk Radio, Louise.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I totally agree with you. It's basically, people want to have like wee ornaments in their garden and wee gnomes, but they don't want to put any, like wildflowers and different things like that back into their garden to encourage, wildlife.
They should leave it.
Mm-hmm.
They should leave their garden so that whatever nature wants to grow there will grow there.
I know. I know. So also, a thing on open cast mining and different things like that totally destroy nature. They always say that they're going to put it back, but it never does. Things like that. And I've just got a house with a garden, and I'm going to introduce all the wildflowers back into it.
Has it got a lawn?
Yeah.
Leave it.
Yeah.
Just leave it. If you don't cut a lawn, do you know what happens to it?
Yeah.
It comes up to about your shin, and then it stops. And it seeds. And you get clouds of butterflies. And beautiful honeybees. But people like to have this lawn that's so smooth you could play croquet on it, except they won't allow anybody to walk on it.
That's
you just have to look at it.
That's right.
And there's something wrong about it. There really is.
Yeah, definitely.
Over gardening is an English problem. It's an English condition.
No, I don't think so.
You can make that argument work. Because if you know your history, you will know that it was the Tudors who pioneered ornate gardening.
Right.
And the Tudors were largely an English line.
Yeah.
Now the Stuarts, of course, they were all in favour of letting nature take its course. And the gardens and the parks that they built were all replicas of Mother Nature. So if you want to make up the argument that the English are responsible for us over gardening the country to death, I think it would almost work.
Yeah, well,
depends on how provocative you want to be.
That's it on now. Everybody's watching TV, so they're all watching this lady, transform all these gardens sort of thing. So I don't think you should they should be banned from television.
Free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening. Mary calls from Newcastle. Mary, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon to you.
Hello, Tommy.
Hello.
You're nearer God's heart in the garden than anywhere else on earth.
Well, what about church?
Church?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, definitely. But the thing is, in a garden, you don't have to get to the actual building. But I've got a little oasis of peace here.
Yeah.
Got no worries. I've got birds flying in and out, and I've had 7 visitors today, all pinching me plants, swapping, and helping me with cutting the lawn. I'm a great organizer. I think myself, why you don't like gardening is so your wife asked you to cut the lawn this morning, and this is your revenge.
No, that simply isn't true. No, I don't.
It sounds like it.
No. Oh, Mary, you're not going to get me like that. No. As with the basis of most of the propositions which we put forward on this programme, Mary, it's a fundamental piece of philosophy which we're tinkering with, you see. We're wondering whether one is, in fact, at one's most serene and contented when one is distracted from the important things. And if so, then pottering around in the garden might be jolly good for the immortal soul, which is great. But the point is this, it's not very good for the planet.
Yes, but you can relax in a garden.
It's not about you, Mary, it's about the planet.
Well,
you can relax doing lots of things. You can relax reading a good book.
What about people on low incomes that's growing their own food? I have a daughter that grows all her own food.
Yes, we're not talking about that. We're talking about people who mess around with the garden for
planet.
Ornamental reasons. That damages the planet.
Oh, no. A thing of beauty is a joy forever.
Its loveliness increases. Carry on.
I think...
it will never...
a thing of beauty is a joy
forever. Its loveliness increases.
Oh, good.
It will never pass into nothingness, but still will keep...
what a clever boy.
...a bower quiet for us.
Yeah.
And asleep.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yes. No, it's Keats.
Yes.
It's a poem he wrote about why people shouldn't faff around with a trowel.
No, that is not true.
No,
you don't know Keats
no.
very well.
No, that was Isabella and the Pot of Basil. You're quite right.
Yes. That's a lovely... I've got the picture just in front of us about that. About Isabella and the Pot of Basil. We own that in Newcastle upon Tyne.
You don't own it in Newcastle upon Tyne. You can't own a work of art.
I said Newcastle upon Tyne does.
Well, owns what?
The Isabella and the Pot of Basil.
No, you don't.
Well, we hold it in perpetuity for our children.
Well, what good's that then?
Because I can go and look at it. I couldn't afford it.
What are you on about, dear?
Isabella and the Pot of Basil.
Yes. You know what the Pot of Basil was?
Yes.
What?
I love his head in.
Yes.
In the pot.
She cut his head off and put it in a pot.
Yeah, I know.
And grew basil with it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
my basil doesn't grow half as well.
But in your wonderful wacky world, Mary, it's in Newcastle upon Tyne where it belongs.
No, no, it doesn't belong anywhere.
No.
No, but the thing is, we have got that in Newcastle upon Tyne.
Right. Yes. Let's talk to Carol, who calls from Leeds. Carol, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tommy.
Hello.
I'm proud of my elm tree in my garden.
You are?
I am.
Why?
Because it's probably one of the few elm trees that survived the Dutch elm disease that ravaged the country. It's a very old one.
Yeah.
And it lives in my garden with lots of beech trees.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that comes off them naturally mulches the soil. And all the goodness goes back into the earth. And I'm really proud of it.
You are just typical, aren't you?
Why is that?
Typical. Well, how can you be proud of the elm tree? Do you have any idea what went into growing that elm tree?
I've no idea. It was here a long time before I was.
That's exactly my point. So what on earth makes you proud of it?
Because I am. Because I'm proud to be looking after it.
But you're not.
Yeah, I am.
It doesn't need you.
Of course it does.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it does. It needs the occasional prune.
The arrogance of you gardeners is beyond me. You get some seeds, the magic of which no scientist can explain. Yeah. And you put them in some soil and you put them in a hot house And then 6 weeks later, you've got something, and you think it's you.
Yeah, but I don't have a hot house.
I've
just got a very natural garden.
The thing that grew your elm tree and the thing that sustains every tree on this planet is something that's far more mysterious than you or I, Carol.
Which is what?
Well, you know what. Nature or, something else.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I've got a very natural garden. It isn't cultivated. It's not full of chemicals.
No.
And if I put lots of chemicals down, who knows what would happen to my elm tree and my beech trees. It's very natural.
Yes.
There's lots of butterflies because I encourage them with the buddleias that are planted, which again are very old, but without my care, they would run riot and they wouldn't flower. So I look after them, and the butterflies come, and the hedgehogs come, and the frogs and the toads come when they're on the way to the watering place.
Right.
And that's what it's all about.
Well, you're nearly a convert.
Yeah.
But you've got to shed this idea that it's got something to do with you.
Well.
That's what annoys me.
But you've got to be proud of it, not because you've done it yourself, but because you're there looking after it and helping it along.
I was listening to a grotesque programme on one of the BBC national channels over the weekend.
Yeah.
And there were a bunch of people in a hall and 4 or 5 men and women up on the stage as if they knew something. And somebody asked a question about ivy. And this old dodder, he made everybody laugh, but he wasn't very funny. He said, well, if I'm walking along with my wife, I see an hedgerow and it's got ivy in it, I lean across and I pulls that ivy out because I will not have ivy. And everybody laughed at this character because he's a character. But I thought to myself, well, we're not, people recognise nowadays that you can't behave like that towards animals, and animals are living things, but so are plants.
Yeah.
And if God wants a bit of, or whoever, Mother Nature, I don't know, wants a bit of ivy to grow there, leave it alone.
You should see my ivy.
Good
At the bottom of my garden, I've got an old air raid shelter, a brick-built one, and it is covered in ivy. And the ivy winds up the beech tree, and it does the beech tree no harm at all.
Yeah, there we are.
It just drops off when it's ready.
Yeah.
And I touch it.
That's it. You're a friend of the planet.
I am.
Simple as that. Griffin calls now from Bristol. Griffin, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hello, Tommy. I've got a complete jungle out here, mate.
Good for you, boy.
Well, I just left it. I come in here, when I moved in here about 9 months ago, it was all cut and weeded and all in straight lines and all arranged in order, heights and that. And I just left it. And now, as I look out my window, that's the only garden I do from this side of the window, it's a complete jungle. And my cat loves it.
Fantastic.
He goes out there, he sits in the long grass, which is getting like elephant grass. When one of the local cats comes around, he jumps out and attacks them. He loves it, and I love it as well. So I look out there, it's all green and high and healthy looking.
Cornucopia of biodiversity.
Yeah.
However, it won't be long before the council come round.
Yeah, they love it. All these other people, have got gardens, cut lawns and things, even though it's only 8 foot square.
Yeah.
They buy lawn mowers.
Yes.
It's madness, isn't it?
Madness.
I mean,
madness.
How can that be good for the environment? Buying all those plastic lawn mowers, they have to be manufactured to cut 8 foot square of grass.
Yes.
And the cats don't go and sit in their gardens, I can tell you. They're in my garden.
And if you have a
good little jungle.
If you've got a jungle, then you can. Do you ever watch the red ants when they come out fight the black ants?
The what?
The red ants.
Well, I can't really see it from this side of the window. I'd never go out there. You know what I mean?
I do, but it's one of the few bits of theatre, one of the few decent shows that nature puts on in a British garden, and that's when the ants are out on a muggy day and they have a go at each other.